Hello, everybody. We are here today with one of the fabulous geotechnical engineer expert in our state. Actually, this person I set the interview with today, he knows the soil specification, I can say feet by feet in different depth in our city. So I want him to introduce fully himself to you guys with David. David, our audience.
Hi, I'm David Eastwood with Geotech Engineering and Testing. I'm a geotechnical engineer. I got bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from University of Houston, and I've been doing this for 45 years. I've got a specialty in geotechnical, environmental materials, and geoforensic engineering. So with 45 years of experience, I work on a lot of projects, including residential development, public infrastructure projects, industrial projects, petrochemical projects, commercial projects. So anything you put on the ground, you need the geotechnical engineering. So we have a geotech engineering and testing, about 60 employees, and we have engineers, technicians, geologists that we can service throughout Texas. And anything that you put on the ground, you're going to need soil testing.
Perfect, David. So I just have like couple questions, and these questions actually we're trying to ask is just we want to know like how the effect of geotechnical engineering to the real estate business, and I wanna start asking like, could you please like explain like any technical terms or finding in geotechnical report that I should be like aware of when we planning to purchase a property like land, house, or like whatever property we planning to purchase? Like what kind of actually items we supposed to be very aware of?
Well, if you're buying a single house in a subdivision is already developed and all that, it'd be nice to know what kind of soils you have underneath your house, how bad it is, depending which part of town you live. Some areas you may have highly expansive soil, some areas you may have non-expansive soil, some areas may have real sandy soils with other problems. So it's very important to know what kind of soils you have, if you have faults near your property, what are the environmental conditions, is there any contamination near your residence, anybody's generating environmental problems. So these are some of the stuff that's very important for if you're buying a house in an established subdivision. In a land development project or a new house, in a whole new subdivisions, it's really important to know what kind of soils you have, what kind of a foundation do you have, do you have any faults in the area, and do you have the soils underneath your foundations properly compacted. A lot of times if you can get this information is good, but most you probably have a hard time get this information from the developer or the builder.
Perfect. Thank you. And also, the second question I just set it up to ask is like, how can geotechnical engineers like help the mitigate risks associated with ground instability?
It's geotechnical. It's very important in any kind of a residential development project. If you're doing a custom home, it's very important to have geotechnical report and know about the type of foundation you need to use underneath your house, depending on the type of soil you're going to have, depending how much money you're spending on the house. You're going to have different types of foundations, how much risk you want to take. So you will have different types of foundations based on the risks and the budgets you have. But geotechnical plays a very important role in coming up with a foundation for a house.
So, like, how do geotechnical reports affect the property valuation and actually insurance premiums?
I don't think the insurance companies look at geotechnical reports. If you have a house in areas that are well known to have real bad soils and movement, and that may affect your insurance premium, but in general, it's unlikely that the geotechnical and soil conditions underneath your house, unless there has been problems, affect your insurance rates.
So the other question actually I have is like, what are the potential geotechnical risks associated with like some property, like any property actually planning to buy to, and how they can be mitigated?
Well, I mean, if you got a house that's already there, if the house is new and all that, you got to make sure, if you know the soils, that'd be great. If you don't, you got to make sure you got positive drainage everywhere and you got uh, gutters and stuff like that. We don't want water standing next to the foundation. If you got expansive soils, that causes your foundation heave. If your soils are sandy, it causes perch water table. Water is going to go underneath your foundation. So drainage, trees are big deals, and you gotta be aware of those things when you buy a new house. How far the trees are from your house. You don't want to put trees anywhere closer than 20, 30 feet from your house. So it's good to know what kind of soils you have, but a lot of times it's hard to come up with a soil report. And if you have foundation problems, knowing the soils, you can come up with a foundation repair technique on your house.
Yeah, actually, the next question I have, it was like same question a lot of people ask me, and that is about like they usually ask like, how does the geotechnical reports compare to other properties in like some area? Which means like if someone has one for their property, is that like usable? Actually, what parameter we should aware of if we want to do that, for example?
Yeah, I don't recommend using a geotechnical report from one lot for another lot. The soils can change in 20 feet. So you need to have individual soil report for every lot that you're building if it's a custom home. So I wouldn't use the soil reports from some other area of a subdivision for your foundation. That's too much risk. Your soils can be completely different. And on a subdivisions, we usually do one boring every 100 foot apart. So like one test for every 2 houses or so. So it's I don't advise to use soil report from one lot for another house.
Perfect, thank you. And what are the implications of the geotechnical findings for the long-term maintenance of the properties we have?
Well, in our geotechnical report, we have a section called Homeowner Maintenance Program, which in there it talks about what kind of a drainage you should have around the house. You should usually have like 5% slope away from the house in the grass, 2% in concrete, where your trees are supposed to go. So these are some of the maintenance issues that you need to be aware of. There's a whole detailed information about maintenance around a house. Just like you have a car, you gotta have to maintain your foundation for a house. And we have detailed recommendations on maintenance.
Perfect. And the next question I have is like kind of a different question. Like, how can emerging like technology and or methodology in geotechnical engineering can impact a real estate development in the like future, even near future or anyway in the future?
The technology is constantly changing. We are looking at new technologies when we do land development projects, from the beginning of a subdivision, how to build it and how to do mass grading, how you move soils, what you have to do, what kind of treatments for them to do during the development of a subdivision. That way, it costs less to make a foundation for the house. Now, if you're buying a single lot and you want to build a house, there are new technologies on foundation design and slab designs that we're constantly updating it to have the most economical foundation under the houses with the lowest risk. So technology is constantly changing and we have to constantly stay abreast of the changes. In general, we change our technology and our reports every 5 years. So our design values change, every about 5 years. So because we learn new things and new technology. So I don't recommend anybody using soil reports older than 5 years for their foundation design.
Perfect. So the other question I said though, I just want to know like what are the best practices for incorporation geotechnical recommendations into the design and construction phases of a project for the like ones who buy the land and planning to build some new houses or new actually buildings on that piece of land they already purchased.
Are you talking about single family or do a subdivision?
Like, let us know your idea about both.
Well, I mean, if you're building a subdivision, we deal with the developers. You got 500 acres, so we go in there and evaluate the soil conditions and test the soil in a preliminary condition to see how bad the soils are. Are they expansive? Do they have perch water table? And what are the issues on that land? We check for faulting. We check for environmental conditions before they buy the land. Once they buy the land and they get a land plan, we go out there and talk to them about treatments to the soil. And during the construction, we'll help them with the testing, make sure all the soils are properly compacted, test the soil, concrete. And after development of the subdivision, we test the lots to make sure that the lots have proper soils information, the compaction and the soil types. Then we come up with the foundation recommendations, what type of foundations to put on those lots. Now, if you're buying a single lot out there, you want to build your house, then we go out there and do soil testing out that lot, depending on the foundation, depending on the soils. We come up with the kind of alternative foundation recommendations. We give foundation recommendations as a function of risk. And if you want to have the lowest risk foundation, you will use certain type of foundation. If you have a higher risk, you can use another one. It all depends on how much money you want to spend on the foundation and how much risk you want to take.
Perfect. And also the next question. So whenever we look at like some lands somewhere, like are there any signs of ground instability or subsidence on the property? We will be able to figure it out or not.
Well, like I said, if you're talking about a land development project where you got 500 acres, we evaluate all that, prior to development. And so we look at the, environmental conditions, faulting, and soil types. Subsidence generally does not affect big tracts of land. I mean, it subsides. The civil engineers have to come up with a drainage plan, a detention ponds. So we put that in the drainage part of it. But from a soils standpoint, we don't look at subsidence because subsidence is an aerial phenomena and doesn't affect a single house, with the exception of drainage, where the civil engineer will address that in their design of the subdivision. On a single house, on a lot that you buy, for example, subsidence is not an issue. Faulting is an issue that you need to be aware of. And of course, the soil types. And we will develop foundation recommendations based on how much money you want to spend and how much risk you want to take.
Perfect. And David, as an last question, I want to ask, what's your best advice as one of the expert geotechnical engineer in our state to all of our audience? Because a lot of people, they look at this video for sure, like maybe a lot of them be engineer, a lot of be like a regular people with different businesses. Like I want you to share your idea whenever they want to purchase a property. What's your best advice?
Is the property, is there a house on it or there's no house on it?
Like, let's share your idea whenever, if someone wants to like purchase a property with houses, without houses, or also whenever they want to purchase a property, like some building in there, like for like commercial side, if like some big building is there or some warehouses is there, like what's your advice, like your general advice for everybody to be aware of?
Okay, if you're buying a piece of raw land, like a lot, you want to build a house, of course, you got to do a soil test. Look at the environmental conditions around that property. Look at faulting. Make sure there's no faults in your area that affect your lot. And so do the soil test and come up with a proper foundation design for that house. Once you build that house, of course, during the construction, you're going to have to do testing to make sure all the soil is properly compacted, the concrete is good. Once it's built, make sure you got positive drainage and have proper distance from the trees. If you buy an existing house where there's already a house there in an established subdivision, you got to get an inspector to go out there and check the house, check the foundation. Prefer to do some elevations on the foundation to see how much out of level it is. Make sure you got good drainage and where the trees are away from the house, how far are they, and if there's any foundation problems. For commercial projects, do the same thing. I mean, on commercial projects, if they're going to build a commercial project, we go out there and do look at the soil type. We do soil testing. We do environmental site assessment to see if there's any risk of contamination. We look at faulting. We come up with the best foundation system for the commercial structure depending on the loading and the budget. And if there's an existing commercial project that you want to buy, you're going to have to get somebody that knows what they're doing and get out there and look at that building to see if the foundation is okay, the structurally sound, good drainage. All those things are important. And of course, to make sure there's no faults in the area and environmentally sound, you got to do a phase 1 environmental site assessment.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your perfect explanation. I hope everybody enjoy this interview with David. And again, this is my advice from my side. Like David is one of the best geotechnical engineers in our state. And make sure whenever you planning to purchase some property, listen his advices because it's going to be very useful. And by following these advices, for sure, you will purchase the best actually in your life. Thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you so much.
Nice.